Good evening once again, Elliot Pfebve.
Good evening, Dereck Tafuma.
How are you, sir?
Yeah, I'm okay. Celebrating this important
I,
day,
ca-
Heroes
I,
Day.
I can see the regalia yamagapfeka kuti you mean business.
Oh, indeed. Chimurenga chinakupera.
And did it?
We are still in the trenches.
Right. So, what are we celebrating today?
I think to say we are celebrating is an understatement. I would prefer that Zimbabweans we say we are reflecting on the foreign heroes, those who contributed fearlessly and selflessly to the liberation struggle.
Yes.
Yeah, for us to achieve the cherished independence that we have today. Unfortunately, Zimbabweans thought that after 1980, after we attained independence, then our own leaders, Robert Mugabe being then the prime minister, would actually bring in prosperity to the country. And also in terms of the right of citizens. Unfortunately, it has not been the case. Our freedoms have been curtailed, at times even worse than the Smith regime.
Mhm. Right. So, I know that there are a number of heroes that have been buried at the Heroes Acre. So, my question is who decides who is buried at the Heroes Acre? Who decides who is a hero in Zimbabwe?
I think since 1980, that has been a topical issue. Unfortunately, you would expect that such an important decision would fall within the government itself, um, across party lines. But unfortunately, in Zimbabwe, it has always been the role of one ruling party, and that is ZANU-PF. And this is why we've seen that those who actually deserved to be heroes were never declared. But based on the party lines and partisan basis, people who probably never took part in the liberation struggle or didn't even contribute in anywhere, but because they've been the parrot singers of Robert Mugabe, they ended up being at the Heroes Acre, which I think that shouldn't be the case. It should be a government decision and enshrined in the Constitution.
Okay, when you say a government decision, what exactly do you mean by government?
What I mean is that we must have a separate independent body
Mhm.
that looks into issues of national nature.
Mhm.
Uh, so this would be a body comprised of, yes, ruling party would be represented, opposition would be represented, civic groups, civic organizations would be represented, and
Mhm.
even church organizations. Here, I mean all civic groups within the country, political and civic groups, so that we've got an independent, just like, for example, we've got an anti-corruption commission.
Yes.
Yes, it's supposed to be impartial, non-partisan, but we know because those people were appointed by Robert Mugabe, they tended to be partisan in themselves. But I'm talking about a truly non-partisan body
Mhm.
that sits, evaluate, and declare who befits a national hero.
In other words, you're saying that the choice of national heroes should not be left to a political party, any single political party, but should be assigned to an institution which represents the whole country.
Of course, it makes sense because I mean this is a national event. If it's a national event, then the decision to declare one a national hero should also be at national level. In which case, it cannot be left to a single political party.
So, do you see that there is a recurrent problem with all the, if you look, for example, at the economy, for example, there are some decisions which are made by a ZANU-PF Politburo. So is that a case where ZANU-PF has managed to take control of any state institution to the extent that it's difficult now to know the difference between a ZANU-PF, something ZANU-PF should be doing and something the state should be doing?
Indeed, I think most of our problems in Zimbabwe actually have got a source from the way the government itself sees itself in the eyes of separation of powers. Within the current Zimbabwean government, there is a thin line or totally no distinction between the ZANU-PF as a party and the government being run by ZANU-PF.
Yes.
So this is why you find most of the decisions, they are actually done within the Politburo behind the scenes on partisan basis. And this is why, yes, when the ministers are appointed, they're supposed to be accountable to the government.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, in this case, because they were appointed by a party, they become accountable to the party.
Mm-hmm.
And then in terms of accountability and audit, it becomes a problem. And this is why you find that Mugabe would fire at will any minister who does not the government line, but the party line.
Yeah. And again, if you look at the parastatals, most of them are being run by ex-service or ex-military people.
Indeed, yeah.
Do you think that's part of the militarization of state institutions?
Yeah, I think apart from militarization, I would call it Zanunization.
Or Zanupification.
Yes, because if you look at those, they are not being appointed only because they've got military credentials, but because they are ZANU-PF members within the structure of ZANU-PF.
Mm-hmm.
So this is like a payback period.
Yeah.
But again, Mugabe, for the past 36 years, has been using the military to suppress the wills of the people, to suppress the wills of the opposition, and also to deal ruthlessly with the opposition. That we know. The violence that have been taking place in various sections of our elections, 2008, 2002, even during the Zoom era,
yeah,
find that mostly they were using the military institutions to deal with the matters of civic.
Yeah.
And hence Mugabe has been rewarding the military with various positions. At the moment, you find almost every position of an ambassador that falls vacant now is being given to the military as a payback. And various institutions, so we know various institutions and commissions, parastatals, they are being headed by the security sector, the military security sector, including Chiazo, where we actually had a short-lived fortune of diamonds, which then disappeared. 15 billion disappeared.
Yeah.
The whole machinery was militarized and Zanunized.
Okay.
And so Mugabe cannot walk away and say he had nothing to do with it, because he appointed those people and they are accountable to him.
Yes. Why is it important that such an issue as we are discussing now should be left to the hands of the state and not a single political party?
I think those decisions, the reason why is...
Do they bring unity to the country if done differently?
Yeah. No, not only that, but if you look at to progressive countries, the opening it up to a government and the separation of power and ideology between the government and the political party. And if, let's say, the national heroes are sort of nationalized in nature in terms of their decisions, it actually means it will be transparent. And it means all citizens will support the decision made, and Zimbabwe can truly reflect and support its heroes. And the siblings, children, and those who might have been injured during the liberation struggle. And mind you, I don't look at heroes only as those who fought in the 1960-70 liberation struggle. I look at heroes on a broad note, where we look at the contribution that an individual had made to improve Zimbabwe. So it might be that it's a teacher, teacher who has excelled, innovated to such an extent that innovation benefited the national curriculum. Yes, that person, maybe we can then look at that as a national hero in that specific sector. Whether from the church, whether from a musician, people like Thomas Tafuma, for example. We might say, here is an ambassador of our culture in terms of the music and the instruments. And we look at even opposition parties. It was an embarrassment that people like Reverend Dabaningi Stole, who was the first president of ZANU, was never declared a national hero because he differed in terms of ideology with Robert Mugabe.
That's very sad.
That becomes, personalization of our issue. So this is why we are saying, once it becomes a national in nature in terms of its decisions, and it must have a specific criteria, well-defined criteria, that it leaves no doubt whatsoever why such a person has been declared a national hero. Then the whole country, across party lines, non-partisan, will support such a decision, and a day like this one will be united in celebrating and reflecting and respecting those heroes.
Okay, and in terms of what happened today in Harare, what is your comment on the attitude of the war veterans?
I support the decision by the war veterans to boycott the occasion, but it also sends a very clear message to Robert Mugabe. Because, yes, before that they'd met and they'd come up with a position paper where they were saying they were withdrawing their support to Robert Mugabe as the president. The reason is because he has become autocratic, and they were in solidarity with the people of Zimbabwe who are struggling, including the war veterans. Mind you, they are not being paid. Their children are not going to school, and they are feeling the economy as well, like anybody else. And again, it was very surprising that Mugabe, being patron of the Zimbabwe National Liberation War veterans, decided to send some police to arrest the war veterans. The Secretary General was arrested, and also the spokesperson Mahia was also arrested and brought for the courts. That whole thing angered the war veterans. And you can't expect the same people who are being persecuted by their own government to be invited and then be invited to the National Heroes Day like today, and then expected to be paraded and respected. because the government showed that it has no respect with their veterans anymore.
Yeah.
And the veterans were right to say, well, if that is the case, now you are persecuting us just for standing up, for advising you, then we are not coming to the. It's no longer, actually, in their own words.
Yeah.
It has lost its purpose.
Okay, I know you've mentioned a little bit about the fact that some of the old veterans are not getting paid on time or enough. Some of their children are not going to school. Overall, what would you say is our attitude or has been our attitude as a country and as a government in terms of the welfare of all veterans, especially soon after the war? Because I've been thinking about, you know how some soldiers in other countries after the war, they go through, they are looked after. Some of them develop mental health problems, and there's help ready for such kind of people. Have we been missing out on such?
I think if you look at that, after independence 1980, there was this euphoria that the people forgot about the very people that were involved in the liberation struggle, including our government, to such an extent that people like Mugabe, these cabinet ministers, they started amassing wealth and forgot about these war veterans. And they were right to come together and then demand what was rightful theirs.
Yeah.
And you probably will remember Chenjerai Owens.
Yeah, I remember that one.
The chairman of the war veterans started challenging the government. And actually they besieged the cabinet ministers and Mugabe himself.
Yeah.
So Mugabe has to be forced to act.
Yeah.
And here is a president who has never had any sort of respect to the very war veterans who fought for the country until he was reminded. And we saw what then happened was for him to just to cover fares, he had to make a hasty decision to make some unbudgeted payouts of 50,000 each, and then with the 2,000 monthly allowances and the other perks, which were for education, etc., all that was not budgeted for. There was nothing wrong in rewarding the war veterans if it was properly budgeted. Then it means the treasurer would have enough time to source for the money and to budget for the money.
Yeah.
But then it became a Black Friday, and that's the day the Zimbabwean dollar lost its value. But we are saying, even though we even saw the very cabinet ministers, Mugabe's cabinet ministers, they actually right to be in the front queue of looting the war veterans' coffers. We saw many of them declaring themselves 90% disability,
100%,
100% disability.
Yeah.
So corruption has been very pandemic.
Right. So, what is your message to the youth and the people of Zimbabwe in terms of Heroes Day?
I think, yes, we have our disappointment with the current leadership of ZANU-PF and Robert Mugabe, but we must not lose focus on the meaning of Heroes Day.
Yeah.
There are people who died for this country, and there are people, yes, they survived with life-changing injuries, and up to date, those people are wallowing in abject poverty. It is the responsibility of the country, and including we, the youth, to look after people who made so much difference to our country. And this day, of course, we'll continue to remember it. Our children will continue to remember it. and our children's children will continue to remember it.
Yeah.
By then, of course, we hope it will be truly, truly a reflection where people are united and they are given the due respect they so much deserve. We must distinguish between being combative and demanding Robert Mugabe and ZANU-PF to leave office and remembering the war veterans. Yeah. And I think those are two different things. And most of those people who are in government, they are not even war veterans anyway.
Yeah.
This is why you find even today Mugabe's war credentials have been challenged.
Yeah.
He's been challenged to prove it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. I think last question would be, in terms of the war veterans themselves, what message would you give to them in terms of separating, political parties from the state? Should they necessarily belong to ZANU-PF, or should they not be free to join any political party and still be regarded as war veterans?
Yeah. My message to the war veterans is, firstly, I sympathize with their plight, especially with the recent arrest and incarceration. And some of them, I know they are out there on bail. Their cases are still pending. And they are being charged with undermining the office of the president. And, again, they're using the Criminal Law Codification and Reform Act of 2004, regardless of the fact that this is no longer the law of the country, because we've got a new constitution which was signed into law in 2013.
Yeah.
Actually, the same law was challenged in 2018.
Okay.
And was declared in violation of both human rights and Zimbabwean freedom.
Yeah.
So this is why the only reason why they are arresting people and charging them with the same law that was declared by the courts as being in violation of our rights.
Yes.
It's just for the sake of frustrating both the opposition, the war veterans, and in sending sort of a message of brutal force. And unfortunately, this is synonymous with all dictators in the world. And Mugabe doesn't seem to learn a leaf. So my message to the war veterans is that I welcome them in the trenches. Yes, unfortunately, yesterday, some of them thought because they were war veterans, they were to support the ruling party, ZANU-PF. But actually, their allegiance should be with Zimbabwe as a country. And their association should be apolitical.
Yeah.
And members, yes, they should be free to join any political party and not to give their allegiance to ZANU-PF or Robert Mugabe, as what has been the case. But I think they've learned the hard way, because the same person is coming to them, like a ton of bricks. And this is what we've always been saying.
That's true.
Yeah.
Right. So I think we can end here. But just one last thing. I don't know if you heard today. It is now the government is planning to come down heavily on social media, what they call social media abuse. I don't know if you heard about that one. Yes,
they are trying to rush through a bill, the Computer and Cyber Crime Bill, which gives the government the right to confiscate computers and mobile phones, and then to persecute people who misuse social media. Again, we have seen this. This is a sign of desperation. The social media is not is not a platform that is unique to Zimbabwe alone.
Yeah.
You know, social media is a global phenomenon being used globally by all citizens, and we haven't heard anywhere where it was banned other than in Zimbabwe. The problem with ZANU-PF and Mugabe in particular is that for so many years they've been benefiting from propaganda, misusing ZBC, you know, the TV and all radios
Yes.
were a monopoly of the ruling party in channeling day in, night out propaganda for the dear leader. Now, we now have got social media, you know, the power of technology. They can't control it anymore.
They've been
This
challenged.
is their fear. And people, we have now rediscovered a voice, a conduit, where we can channel a voice, where we can communicate, we can debate issues.
Yeah.
And this is the platform that Mugabe for so long have denied the Zimbabweans.
So the government no longer has monopoly on the generation and dissemination of information, basically.
And they know that their time is up. And this is the anger. And they want to try as much as possible to frustrate that information technology era that we have embraced, we Zimbabweans, to change our destiny. But they've only one chance, and that is no chance.
Okay, Elliot Pfebve, thank you very much. I think we want to do another video on, because we've just done the heroes. We want to look at the defense forces.
Yes.
So we'll stop this one now, and if people have comments, we can respond to them. If they ask questions in the comments box, then we can always respond with another video.
Thank you.
So how can people reach you if they want to watch this video?
Yeah, they can reach me on YouTube.
Yeah.
They can just search my name, Elliot Pfebve.
Yeah.
Then they'll be able to see all these videos on Zimbabwe, where we discuss the social and economic issues. They can also visit my blog, which is pfebve.blogspot.co.uk. They can also...
Is it not Pfebve voice? I seem to remember.
It is. They can type when they're Googling.
Okay.
They can type Pfebve voice. It will come up.
Right.
It's Pfebve. But as a blog, the URL for the blog is pfebve.blogspot.co.uk.
Good.
You can also find me and the same videos on Facebook, Elliot Pfebve. They can find me on Twitter.
Okay.
The same videos.
Yeah.
At Pfebve.
Yeah. So when this law comes, my friend, you're going to suffer a lot because you're on all these social media platforms.
Well,
and you abuse social media.
Well, this is my generation. It's not their generation. So
Yeah.
I'm not bothered.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Head-on collision.
Yeah. No problem. Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Okay.